This is a story about my past life regression experience and facing deepest fears. Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." But what if we live more than once? Welcome! If you're interested in real mystical experiences, psychic world, angels and spirit guides, then support this new channel by subscribing. At the end of 2019, I had a time in my life where a lot of fears were coming to the surface. Some dated back to my childhood, but some had no real reason behind them, like the fear of getting sick, fear of heights, drowning, huge crowds and enclosed spaces. I mean, I had them before, but the intensity this time was driving me crazy. I was advised by my spirit guides to look into past life regression, so I did. I have explored this type of hypnotherapy before really going for it, and have looked into Dolores Cannon works. They resonated with my own spiritual philosophy and seemed pretty safe, so I decided to go for it. There is one really important thing I wanted to experience during these past life regressions. It was death. For the full benefits of the regression, I needed to envision my past lives fully, from the beginning till the end, to see what is the actual root of my fears. Before we get immersed in my experience, I want to disclose a couple of facts. I did not bring a whole camera crew to film the therapy sessions like some YouTubers do. At the time, I had no intention of sharing it with others. It was for my own personal growth. I have no reason to recreate some visual scenes for the sake of credibility. Everything you will hear is already raw and uncensored. So the whole hypnotherapy session was about 4 hours long. I was witnessing a distorted sense of time. The traveling between past lives passed so quickly it felt like 20 minutes, not more. Let's dive deeper. In December 2019, I found myself in a white studio. No windows, not a single peak of natural light. I remember seeing a lot of crystals placed everywhere and shelves full of books. Lying with my eyes closed and covered with a thick blanket, I was ready to enter the unknown. I had fears I won't be able to relax enough to go into hypnosis. Though I had a bunch of mystical experiences prior to this point in my lifetime, I must confess I was afraid to experience death, as you simply do not know what to expect. I was brought back to my mother's womb and felt floating like a fetus. It felt so innocent. Afterwards, I was guided to walk across a wide tunnel to cross a thin line over from this existence. No auto suggestion was used. All questions I was asked were open, and prior to the whole session, I made a strong agreement with myself. If I don't feel anything or see anything, I will not make stuff up just for the sake of it. After stepping out of the tunnel, I clearly saw myself surrounded by a bright light. My body was tall, strong, with well-defined muscles. I was a man of an African ethnicity. One apparent thing has shocked me deeply. I had a pair of heavy chains around my ankles and another pair around my wrists. I was a slave. The chains were loose enough to allow me to work. My job was to move stones from one place to another, but the place was somehow familiar. I saw a huge pyramid on the horizon, and this totally explains my life-lasting attraction towards Egypt and everything revolving around it. I was not detached from the scenes and could feel everything just like in real life. Cold, pain, heat, tiredness, fear, anger, sadness, and feeling physically sick. Through certain parts of the session, I was uncontrollably shaking, and the therapist had to calm me down. The second time, I was taken to a green meadow, but something strange was happening around. I could smell a smoke in the air, and I found myself sitting in the plane. I was the pilot. I knew I had to get out of the burning plane somehow. This also ties into my fear of flying and enclosed spaces. It totally makes sense now. In the third lifetime, I found myself in a wooden cabin. I could smell a variety of herbs, dried bunches of them were hanging from the ceiling. The space was dark and gloomy. In the first two instances, I could totally identify myself with the person of that particular past lifetime. I felt their physical symptoms. This time was different. I was an observer. The woman was sitting in the middle of the room. Her hair was long, gray, and tangled. She was wearing sandals and a long gray dress. To me, she looked weird, like she was a little crazy. The therapist asked me to try to feel whatever she is feeling, to see the world in her own eyes. But the gray lady was having none of it. She would not let me in closer. I was instructed by her to wait. Perhaps she felt my judgment and wanted to teach me a lesson. Up to this day, I wonder why. So, I waited, and the therapist waited. After some time, she gave in. I felt like her and myself became one. The lady was not crazy. She was a psychic witch, and this psychic gave me the best advice I needed in my own spiritual journey. Care less of what other people think about you. This video is part 1 of the 3-part series. Part 2 will focus on a pure experience of death. It is a lot to talk about, and the senses were sometimes overwhelming. In part 3, you will get a chance to see how I met my starseed family. For more mystical stories like this one, please subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching and allowing me to relive this extraordinary experience once again.